Auteveyete Gemini, the steel deck plates of the three-level vibrate with a violence that rattles the teeth in a sailor's jaw. Just feet above this ceiling lies the flight deck of a United States Navy aircraft carrier. And right now, a 30-ton FA-18 Super Hornet is slamming into the arresting gear wire at 150 miles per hour. The hydraulic engine designed to absorb that massive kinetic energy screams with a mechanical shriek that sounds like a catastrophic car crash. Dust drifts down from the ventilation ducts, and in the cramped, windowless room directly below, an 18-year-old aviation machinist's mate simply rolls over in a bed the size of a coffin, pulls a scratchy wool blanket over their ears, and tries to steal 2 more hours of sleep before their next 18-hour shift begins. The recruitment commercials show the gleaming jets, the crisp salutes, and the majestic silhouette of the ship cutting through the ocean. They sell the glory of projecting American power. What they do not show is the grinding, industrial reality of living inside a floating steel factory for 9 months at a time, entirely cut off from the rest of the world. In this deep dive documentary, we are going to tear away the polished public relations facade and expose the unvarnished truth of daily life inside the belly of an aircraft carrier. You will not find any generic tour of coffee shops or sanitized gymnasiums here. Instead, you are going to discover the brutal claustrophobia of the enlisted berthing compartments, where 80 people share a single bathroom and privacy is a myth. We will reveal the logistical nightmare of feeding 5,000 exhausted sailors, exposing the cult status of the midnight ration known as the hamster and the ominous dread that accompanies a menu featuring steak and lobster. You will learn about the toxic hazards of the ship's vacuum plumbing system, the physical agony of the cranking initiation in the scullery, and the psychological warfare of River City blackouts, where all communication with home is abruptly severed. We will explore the underground economy where energy drinks and tobacco become currency, and we will show you how the human mind adapts to an environment devoid of sunlight, silence, or escape. This is an autopsy of human endurance on the high seas. To comprehend the daily existence of the crew, one must first understand the sheer oppressive density of the ship's architecture. An aircraft carrier like the USS Nimitz or the USS Gerald R. Ford is often romantically called a floating city, but it operates much more like a high-security industrial complex. The ship is divided by a strict, unyielding class system. Officers live in officer country, enjoying relatively quiet staterooms, steward service, and wardrooms with linen tablecloths. But for the junior enlisted sailors, the E1s through E4s who actually turn the wrenches, scrub the decks, and load the bombs, life revolves around the berthing compartment. A standard junior enlisted berthing is a windowless steel cavern crammed with racks stacked 3 tiers high. There is no standing room between the beds. To enter the middle rack, a sailor must slide in horizontally entirely flat, because the vertical clearance between the mattress and the metal pan above is roughly 20 inches. Sitting up to read a book is physically impossible. The mattress is a thin slab of fire-retardant foam that offers virtually no support against the steel underneath. A single, thin curtain made of Nomex fabric provides the only visual barrier between the sailor and 80 other people living in the same room. The sensory assault in the berthing is relentless. The ship's massive propulsion engines create a constant, low-frequency hum that permeates the bulkheads. The ventilation system, fighting a losing battle against the body heat of dozens of people, roars continuously, blowing recycled, chilled air that smells distinctly of ship, a permanent, inescapable odor created by the mixture of JP5 jet fuel, industrial floor wax, human sweat, and amine, the chemical compound used in the carbon dioxide scrubbers. The noise never truly stops. Because the ship operates on a 24-hour cycle, someone is always waking up, someone is always going to sleep, and someone is always slamming a metal locker door at 3 in the morning. Personal space is restricted to a small pan beneath the mattress and a stand-up locker barely wide enough to hold a single uniform hanger. Into this minuscule volume, a sailor must pack their entire life for a 9-month combat deployment. Uniforms, civilian clothes, electronics, hygiene gear, and whatever snacks they manage to hoard before leaving port. The flashpoint for misery in these cramped quarters is the communal bathroom known as the head. A division of 80 sailors might share 4 shower stalls and 5 toilets. The morning routine is an exercise in extreme logistical frustration and territorial negotiation. Water is a precious commodity on a warship, generated by massive desalination evaporators that boil seawater. To prevent waste, the showers are equipped with heavy brass push-button valves. A sailor pushes the button and receives exactly 30 to 40 seconds of water. Then the flow abruptly stops. They must quickly apply soap in the heavily air-conditioned, freezing air of the shower room, then push the button again to rinse off. The temperature of the water is entirely unpredictable, tied directly to the ship's overall steam usage. If the laundry department starts a massive cycle, or if the engineers draw steam for the catapults, the shower water will instantly fluctuate from freezing cold to scalding hot without warning. Furthermore, the culture of the shower shoe is a strict survival mechanism. Stepping barefoot onto the constantly wet, communal steel deck is a guaranteed way to contract virulent fungal infections that thrive in the maritime environment. But the showers are a minor inconvenience compared to the ship's plumbing. Carriers utilize a CHT or collection, holding, and transfer system. It is a vacuum-powered sewage network designed to pull waste through miles of narrow piping. It is highly efficient when it works and catastrophic when it fails. Sailors, fatigued and careless, inevitably flush unauthorized items, wet wipes, uniform patches, heavy paper towels, or empty tobacco tins. When a main CHT line clogs, the vacuum suction reverses. Raw, concentrated sewage backs up through the toilets, flooding the deck of the head and frequently spilling over the watertight coamings directly into the berthing compartment. The smell is an eye-watering, gag-inducing horror. The hull technicians, are the unsung heroes of the fleet, forced to don heavy rubber hazardous material suits and wade into this toxic, ankle-deep sludge to snake the lines and restore the vacuum. A severe CHT backup can ruin the belongings of sailors assigned to the bottom racks, forcing them to sleep in emergency overflow areas while the compartment is violently sanitized with industrial bleach. Before a junior sailor is ever allowed to perform the technical job they spent months training for, they must survive a brutal rite of passage known as cranking. Officially called food service attendant duty, this is a mandatory 90-day assignment where newly arrived personnel are sent to work in the galleys, the mess decks, and the scullery. It is an equalizer designed to build discipline through sheer physical exhaustion. A sailor with top scores in advanced electronics might find themselves standing in the deep sink of the scullery for 14 hours a day. The scullery is a perpetually humid, steam-filled room that smells of wet garbage and boiling dishwater. The crank sprays down thousands of plastic food trays as they come off the conveyor belt, dodging flying debris and scalding water from the industrial dishwashing machines. They scrub massive 50-gallon steam kettles caked with burnt cheese and powdered eggs. They haul heavy, leaking bags of wet trash up and down narrow ladders. Cranking is miserable, mindless labor, but it creates an unbreakable bond among the junior ranks. The shared trauma of the scullery strips away arrogance and integrates the new sailor into the gritty reality of the ship's hierarchy. The logistical miracle of feeding 5,000 people 4 times a day is a staggering industrial operation. The budget for food on a carrier runs roughly $65,000 a day. The menu operates on a 21-day cycle, dictated by the Armed Forces Recipe Service, which lists ingredients not in cups or tablespoons, but in hundreds of pounds. But the quality of the food degrades exponentially the longer the ship is at sea. During the first week after a port call, there is fresh lettuce, actual milk, and fresh fruit. By week 3, the lettuce is brown slime, the vegetables are exclusively canned corn and frozen spinach, and the milk is replaced by UHT, ultra-high-temperature shelf-stable milk stored in boxes that taste faintly cooked and unnervingly sweet. The most anticipated and beloved meal on the ship is not dinner. It is midrats, short for midnight rations. Served from 2300 to 100 hours, it is designed to fuel the night shift workers, the mechanics, the reactor operators, and the watchstanders. Midrats is a culinary wasteland of pure comfort food. The menu features breakfast burritos, leftover pizza, corn dogs, and the legendary hamster. A hamster is a processed, deep-fried chicken cordon bleu patty filled with ham and cheese, served on a dry hamburger bun. It is a nutritional nightmare, frozen for months before seeing the fryer, yet to a sailor who has been working for 12 hours in the freezing wind of the flight deck, it tastes like a Michelin star masterpiece. Conversely, the most dreaded meal is surf and turf. In the civilian world, a dinner of steak and lobster is a celebration. On a deployed aircraft carrier, it is a dark omen. Command typically authorizes the release of expensive steak and lobster tails for only 2 reasons. It is a major holiday or the deployment has just been unexpectedly extended. If it is a random Tuesday and the galley is serving rubbery lobster tails, the entire crew instantly understands that they are not going home on time. It is a peace offering from the Pentagon, and it usually kills morale faster than a combat drill. Sustaining this massive biological consumption requires the most dangerous logistical maneuver in the Navy, the UNREP, or underway replenishment. An aircraft carrier cannot simply pull into a grocery store. Instead, a massive supply ship, such as a TJOE fast combat support ship, pulls alongside the carrier in the open ocean. The 2 colossal vessels steam perfectly parallel at 15 knots, separated by only 150 feet of churning water. A single miscalculation by the helmsman could result in a catastrophic collision. High-tension steel cables are fired across the gap. Once secured, heavy pallets of frozen food, dry goods, and critical spare parts are sent sliding across the cables from one ship to the other. Simultaneously, helicopters hover overhead, engaging in vertical replenishment (VERTREP), lifting cargo nets filled with supplies and dropping them precisely onto the carrier's pitching flight deck. The moment a pallet hits the deck, the priority is ruthless. Fresh and frozen goods must be moved instantly, especially in regions like the Persian Gulf where the deck temperature can exceed 130 degrees. Hundreds of sailors form a massive working party, a human chain that passes heavy boxes hand-to-hand down ladders, through narrow bulkheads, and into the deep freeze lockers. It is a grueling, hours-long marathon of manual labor that leaves the crew exhausted. The physical environment of the ship dictates the culture. Deep below the waterline, far removed from the sunlight and the flight deck, lies the domain of the snipes and the nukes, the conventional mechanics and the nuclear engineers. These sailors operate in the pit, the main machinery rooms that house the steam turbines, the reduction gears, and the nuclear reactors. The ambient temperature in these spaces regularly hits 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a heavy, wet heat filled with the deafening roar of high-pressure steam lines and spinning metal. Sailors working in the pit sweat through their heavy coveralls within minutes of going on watch. They drink gallons of water but rarely need to use the restroom because their bodies expel all moisture through their skin. Heat rashes are a constant, painful companion. These engineers become mole people. They work on rotating shift schedules that completely destroy their circadian rhythms. They might go 3 or 4 weeks without ever climbing the ladders to see natural sunlight or breathe unfiltered ocean air. Their skin turns a pale, translucent white. They exist in a permanent twilight of artificial fluorescent lighting, eating breakfast at 7 in the evening and dinner at 7 in the morning. They develop a highly insular, cynical subculture, viewing the sailors who work topside in the fresh air as soft tourists. The psychological toll of this existence is profound, and it is weaponized by the ship's operational requirements. In the modern era, sailors are accustomed to constant connectivity. The carrier is equipped with satellite internet and Wi-Fi spots to boost morale. However, this lifeline is frequently severed without warning through a condition called River City. This is the military code for a total operations security (OPSEC) communications blackout. When the carrier is maneuvering into a strike position, or when intelligence suggests an imminent threat, the captain orders River City to prevent the enemy from intercepting electronic signals and pinpointing the ship's location. The internet is instantly killed. The payphones go dead. The email servers are locked. Suddenly, 5,000 people are trapped in a steel void. During combat deployments, River City can last for weeks. A sailor does not know if their spouse had their baby, if a sick parent survived surgery, or if a global war has broken out. In this vacuum of information, paranoia thrives. Scuttlebutt, the naval term for rumors, spreads like a virus through the passageways. A mechanic's idle speculation that the deployment is being extended by 3 months becomes absolute fact by the time the rumor reaches the flight deck. The human mind, starved of its usual inputs, begins to glitch. After months at sea, sailors experience the phantom vibration. Because watchstanders and key personnel carry heavy-duty radios or pagers that vibrate to signal emergencies or shift changes, the nervous system becomes hypervigilant. Sailors sitting in the mess deck or lying in their racks will suddenly feel a distinct buzzing sensation against their thigh. They will reach down to check a pager that they left in their locker or that they aren't even wearing. The brain has literally rewired itself to expect a summons. Around month 5 of a deployment, the bulkhead stare becomes a common sight. You walk into the enlisted dining area and see a young sailor sitting alone, a tray of lukewarm food untouched in front of them, staring blankly at a gray steel wall. They are not looking at the wall. Their mind has simply shut down to protect itself from the crushing monotony. The routine of working 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no weekends and no days off, strips away the personality. The brain stops forming new memories because every single day is identical to the one before it. To survive this psychological pressure cooker, the crew relies on an underground economy. Cash has no real value in the middle of the ocean. The true currency of the aircraft carrier is caffeine, nicotine, and digital entertainment. The official ship's store inevitably runs out of the most popular items within the first month of a long cruise. The white, sugar-free Monster energy drinks and wintergreen chewing tobacco vanish from the shelves. A sailor with the foresight to hoard 3 cases of energy drinks in their rack becomes a powerful broker. They can trade a single can for a desperately needed favor, such as someone taking their hated 200 to 600 guard duty. They can trade a roll of tobacco for a custom haircut. While the ship has official barbers, the lines are hours long, and the haircuts are famously terrible, uniform buzz cuts. Consequently, barracks barbers emerge, sailors with clippers who operate illicitly in the fan rooms or machine shops, providing fades and actual styling in exchange for snacks or favors. Digital media is hoarded on terabyte hard drives. Because the ship's internet is far too slow to stream video, sailors trade massive libraries of movies and television shows. Having the latest season of a popular series makes a sailor a highly valued asset in the berthing compartment. The Navy attempts to mitigate this misery with sanctioned morale events, the most famous being the Steel Beach Picnic. After months of continuous operations, the captain may order a stand-down. The flight deck is cleared of active operations. The jets are tied down tightly at the bow and stern. The culinary specialists haul massive, custom-built charcoal grills, often welded from old fuel barrels, up to the flight deck. The most dangerous real estate on Earth is transformed into a surreal, floating resort. Sailors strip off their grease-stained coveralls and emerge in shorts and t-shirts. Music blasts from heavy speakers. They grill thousands of burgers and hot dogs. If the waters are safe and the tactical situation allows, the ship will hold a swim call. The massive aircraft elevators, normally used to move 30-ton fighters, are lowered to the water level. Sailors leap off the edge into the open ocean, swimming in water that is thousands of feet deep and a hypnotic, terrifying shade of dark blue. While they swim, armed sailors stand watch on the catwalks with rifles, scanning the water for sharks. It is a moment of pure, bizarre freedom, a temporary release valve designed to prevent mutiny and mental collapse. But the true test of an aircraft carrier crew is not the boredom. It is the sheer, uncompromising danger of their environment. The flight deck is a chaotic ballet of lethal machinery. The crew operates in color-coded jerseys, yellow for directors, purple for fuel, red for ordnance, green for catapults. They communicate entirely through a complex language of hand signals because verbal communication is impossible over the deafening roar of jet engines. A sailor in a green jersey must crawl under the belly of an F-18 whose engines are at military power, inches away from the intake that could suck them in and shred them in a microsecond, to hook the launch bar to the catapult shuttle. The non-skid coating on the deck acts like heavy grit sandpaper, tearing up boots and skin. The exhaust from the jets can exceed hundreds of degrees, capable of blowing a man overboard into the ocean 60 feet below. Every day, the crew performs the FOD walk, foreign object debris. Hundreds of sailors line up shoulder to shoulder and walk the entire length of the flight deck, eyes glued to the ground, searching for a stray screw, a piece of safety wire, or a dropped pen. If a jet engine sucks up a single metal bolt, it will destroy the engine and potentially kill the pilot. It is a daily, humbling reminder that the survival of the multi-billion-dollar machine depends on the meticulous attention of the lowest-ranking sailors. When the deployment finally ends and the ship returns to its home port, the public sees the joyous reunions on the pier. They see the tears and the embraces. What they do not see is the brutal phenomenon of reintegration trauma. A sailor who has lived in a steel box for 9 months, hypervigilant and surrounded by noise, is suddenly thrust back into civilian society. The sensory overload is paralyzing. The colors of the grass and trees are aggressively bright. The silence of a civilian bedroom is terrifying, leading many returned sailors to sleep on the floor with a fan running on high just to simulate the vibration and noise of the ship. They walk into a grocery store and suffer panic attacks in the cereal aisle, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of choices after months of eating whatever was placed on their tray. They return to families that have learned to function without them, spouses who have taken over the finances, and children who have grown. The sailor feels like an intruder in their own life, physically present but mentally still walking the passageways of the carrier. The United States Navy does not just deploy ships. It deploys vast, floating cities of trauma, resilience, and industrial grit. The sailors who man these vessels endure physical exhaustion, psychological isolation, and living conditions that would break a civilian within a week. They do not do it for the pay, which is meager for the hours worked, and they do not do it for the food. They do it for the sailor sleeping in the rack next to them. They are the unseen, unglamorous muscle that keeps the rotors turning and the jets flying. They are the steel spine of American global power, forged in an environment of unrelenting pressure. If this unfiltered journey into the dark heart of an aircraft carrier changed your perspective on the true cost of naval supremacy, I need you to act right now. First, subscribe to the Tactical Chow channel. We refuse to feed you sanitized military propaganda. We serve up the cold, hard logistical reality of warfare. Second, smash that like button. It is the critical fuel that helps us bypass the algorithm and bring these hidden stories to a wider audience. Third, leave a comment below. I want to know, could you handle 9 months of sleeping in a coffin-sized rack, breathing recycled air and showering for 40 seconds at a time? Or would the claustrophobia break you? Be honest. And finally, if you think the living conditions on a surface carrier are extreme, you have no idea what true isolation is. Click the video on your screen right now to witness the terrifying reality of life inside a fast-attack nuclear submarine. No windows, no fresh air, and no surfacing for